Show and tell. You may remember a couple of years ago, our church member Chris Clark, who's working the sound and video today, Chris designed a shirt for us that says Douglas UCC, spiritually active. In fact, Fritz Royce is modeling one today. Our church is known as being spiritually active. 5 years ago, when I became the pastor here, we had a series of what were called New Beginnings groups, discussion groups. And we decided, what can we do to really live out our mission in the community? And out of those discussions came 7 groups that we call spiritually active groups. And I'm so proud of all of the work that those groups are doing out in the community to protect the environment, to fight for justice and equality, and to help people who are in need. And I love that this church has become known in the community at large. People who don't even come to this church, they know us as the environmental church, they know us as the justice church, they know us as the open and affirming church, because they see all the activity we're doing out in the community. They see us cleaning up the highway and doing beach cleanups and recycling events. They see us marching and protesting and having vigils. And they see us out at Gay Pride. And so all of those things, all of those activities really show that we are a church who is really living out our mission. We're putting our faith into action. And that is such an awesome thing. I'm so grateful to all of you. But in today's gospel, Jesus is kind of cautioning us about too much activity. He's actually telling us that maybe we need to slow down and to just be still. Now, the story, of course, that we just heard of Martha and Mary, we see Martha is like us. She's the doer. And she's saying, well, I have so much to do. There's a meal to prepare. I've got to set the table. There's a lot that needs to get done. I can't just sit still. And you see that she gets resentful of her sister. And she says to Jesus, Jesus, can't you see my sister's just sitting here doing nothing. I'm doing all the work. Can't you tell her to help me? And what does Jesus do? Does Jesus say, Martha, you're right. I'll tell Mary to help you? No, Jesus seems to side with Mary. He says, and he uses her name twice. He says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and anxious about so many things, but there's need of only one thing, and Mary has chosen the better part. Mary has chosen the better part. This is such a wonderful passage for us as modern-day Americans. This story is only told to us in Luke's Gospel, and it is only 6 sentences long. It's one of the shortest stories in the whole Bible. But I think it is one of the most important for us today in the modern world, because most of us as modern-day Americans are the Marthas. And in fact, we actually admire people who do a lot in one day. We admire the multitaskers. We admire the people that get stuff done. And we grew up with this American work ethic. But if you've traveled abroad, you know that if you visit countries, in the middle of the afternoon, many of them take siestas. Everything closes up, all the businesses, all the shops, and people go home for a couple of hours and they relax and take a nap in the middle of the day. And where most Americans are lucky if we get a week of vacation a year, many people in other countries get month-long paid vacations. They really are people who know how to enjoy this life. We as Americans, we often feel uncomfortable with that. We say, well, I feel guilty if I'm not always being productive, that there's so much that needs to get done. But what happens to us when we do that? We end up like Martha. We're worried, we're distracted, and we become resentful, just like she did. And that is why Jesus says that Mary has chosen the better part, because Mary is just still and present. She's in the now moment. She's just enjoying Jesus being in her house. She's not even thinking about all of those other things because she is so focused on Jesus' presence. She is fully present in the present. She's just there. She's just there being still. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard this phrase. It says, "We are not human doings. We're human beings." And I really like that because that is the truth. We're not human doings, we're human beings. And Jesus is calling us to be like Mary, to just be still and know. But I talk to people who say it is hard to be Mary in a Martha world, because we're living in a Martha world where we have 24/7 news channels. We're on Facebook and Twitter. Things are always happening. We're always plugged into some device. Now, some people say to me, "Well, Pastor Sal, I need to know what's going on in the world. There's a lot of really bad things happening in our country right now. We need to be awake. We need to know what's happening. I just can't sit there on the floor like Mary and do nothing. There's stuff to be done." And that is very true. What Jesus is saying is, he's not saying that Martha is bad. He's not saying that activity is bad. Because Jesus himself was a man of action. Jesus was out there in the world, going from town to town. He was teaching people. He was healing people. He was working miracles. But notice, throughout the Gospels, Jesus goes off by himself multiple times. He goes out into the wilderness, up to a mountaintop, out in the desert, all alone by himself. Because Jesus understood that we need to balance our activity with time of contemplation. Now, the Christian church in our lifetime, I think, has done a really great job of inspiring us to be active. Our denomination, the United Church of Christ, has been in its history just on the forefront of everything with social justice and the environment. And I'm so proud that they are inspiring us to take action in the world. But in my opinion, the Christian church in our lifetime has not done a very good job at giving us the tools we need to be contemplative, to be still, to go within. Other faith traditions are better at this, and we can learn from them. If you went to a Buddhist temple today, or you went to a Hindu ashram, there may be a few spoken words, a Dharma talk or a satsang, but most of the service is in silence. Can you imagine today if I said, I'm not giving a homily today, and for the 15 minutes where I usually speak, we're just going to sit in silence? Some of you would love it, but but many of you would be very uncomfortable. You wouldn't like it. It would be hard for you to sit still. It would be hard for you to slow down your mind. And some of you might even think, well, it's a complete waste of time. You know, we, during our Christian service, we want to always have something happening. So there's readings and hymns and psalms and praise bands, and there's always something happening during the service. But we are called to be still and know, to go into the silence, because the silence is where we hear the voice of God. That's why Jesus is saying Mary has chosen the better part. So Jesus in this story isn't saying that Martha's bad and Mary's good. He's not saying it's Martha or Mary. He's saying we need to be both Martha and Mary and to have it in balance. I love Bishop John Shelby Spong's words of integration this morning, and I love his take on it, that Martha's doing the women's work And she's resentful that Mary is acting as a rabbinical student, as a male student. Okay? But I think symbolically that is what the story is about. It takes place in a house, and that symbolizes our inner house, our inner place, our inner dwelling place. And in that house, within each one of us, live two sisters. They dwell there. One's the doer and one's the beer. One's the masculine energy and one's the feminine energy. One's the intuitive, one's the rational. They're in all of us, regardless of our gender. Jesus' point here is we need to have those two sisters in harmony, in balance, so that we can know how to take action in the world. In 2016, 20 of us from Douglas UCC took a trip to New Mexico. We got to spend time with Richard Rohr, and we got to spend time at the center that he founded there in New Mexico. And he calls the Center for Action and Contemplation. The Center for Action and Contemplation. And the mission statement of that center is, we need a contemplative mind in order to do compassionate action. It starts with the contemplative mind first. We have to be still first and then go and do action. Okay? So, in this story of Martha and Mary, it's about the word and the work. And that's what you see on the front cover of your bulletin today from the UCC. Word and work. We have to be attuned to the word before we do the work. Now, what is the word? This is confusing to a lot of Christians. If you ask a lot of Christians, what is the word? They're like, well, I guess it's the Bible. They think the word literally means a word, like letters on a page, like an alphabet. But think about it. At the very beginning of the Bible, what does it say? It says, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. At the beginning of time, before God created everything, was the Word. It wasn't an alphabet. It wasn't a book. It wasn't letters on a page. It was God. Our Eastern brothers and sisters say it was an energy, a sound, a vibration, the Om. We have to be attuned to that Om, to that word, that presence of God. We have to attune ourselves to that before we go about the work. If we're just all about the work and we're not attuned to that, then we're going to burn out. And that's why I am so grateful to all of you for the gift of sabbatical that you are gifting me next year. Because it is important for us in our busyness and all the great work and activity that we're doing to be still. Now, every single Wednesday night here in the church, there is an opportunity for you to be still. I'm so grateful to Paul Burdick for facilitating that for us each and every week. 1 hour from 5:30 to 6:30 for you to just come into the church and be still. But you know, not many people attend on Wednesday nights. People either, I guess, are too busy or too impatient to sit still. I think we have a lot of Marthas, and I'm one of them. But the opportunity is there for you to say, I need to, in all of the busyness, find time to just go within. Now, some people say, Pastor Sal, I can't do it because I don't know how to meditate. I don't know how to pray. Well, you have to come next Sunday, because next Sunday's gospel is the one where Jesus is asked, Rabbi, teach us how to pray. So we're going to talk about that next Sunday. But in the meantime, this week, I want you to pay attention to all of your actions, all of your activity. Are you like Martha, distracted and anxious and resentful? If so, find time to embrace your inner Mary. Find time to just sit at the feet of Jesus. Be present in the presence. Be still and know. Namaste.